Gilded Cage. Sophia Patel's fingers trembled over the piano keys as she tried to concentrate on the Chopin nocturne. The letter from the bank sat unopened beside her, another reminder that her mother's music school was 3 months behind on rent. Outside, rain streaked the windows of the modest studio apartment she shared with her younger brother, Devin. "You should open it," Devin said, setting a cup of tea beside her. At 17, he carried more worry than any teenager should. "What's the point?" Sophia sighed. "It's just another warning." The melody faltered as her phone buzzed. Her Uncle Vikram's name flashed on the screen. Since their mother's illness had worsened, he'd been their reluctant guardian, though his help always came with strings attached. "Uncle Vic, I told you I need more time." "There is no more time, Sophia," he interrupted. "But I've found a solution. Heath Blackwood wants to meet you tomorrow." Heath Blackwood? The CEO of Blackwood Innovations? Her heart sank. "Why would he want to meet me? He needs a wife. You need money." Her uncle's voice was matter of fact. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are best." "This isn't the 1800s, Sophia protested. "You can't just arrange a marriage." "It's a business arrangement, not a love match. 1 year of marriage, and all your problems disappear." He paused. "Your mother's treatment, Devin's college fund, the music school, all taken care of." The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders. At 24, Sophia had put her own dreams of becoming a concert pianist on hold to care for her family. Every audition, every opportunity had been sacrificed for them. "I'll think about it," she whispered. "Don't think too long. He's not a patient man." The next day, Sophia found herself in the intimidating glass tower of Blackwood Innovations. The receptionist led her to the top floor, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. Heath Blackwood stood with his back to her, a silhouette against the skyline. When he turned, his steel-gray eyes assessed her with clinical detachment. At 35, his success was legendary, his reputation for ruthlessness even more so. "Miss Patel." His voice was deep, his handshake firm. "Your uncle speaks highly of your practical nature." "He shouldn't have spoken of me at all," Sophia replied, meeting his gaze directly. A flicker of surprise crossed Heath's face before he gestured to a chair. "Shall we discuss terms?" "I'd rather discuss why someone like you needs to buy a wife." Heath's jaw tightened. "My grandfather's will stipulates that I must be married for at least 1 year before I can assume full control of the company. The board is growing restless with the interim leadership." "And you couldn't find anyone willing without payment?" "I don't have time for dating games," he said dismissively. "This is cleaner. No emotions, no complications." He slid a folder across the table. 1 year, separate bedrooms, public appearances as needed. You'll have complete financial freedom, and I'll fund whatever education or career you wish to pursue." Sophia opened the folder. The figure made her breath catch. "Why me?" she asked softly. "Your uncle says you're intelligent, discreet, and motivated by family loyalty rather than personal ambition." Heath's expression remained impassive. "You won't try to extend the arrangement beyond its terms." "And if I refuse?" "Then I find someone else." He shrugged. "But your mother's treatment options are limited, aren't they?" Sophia closed the folder, anger and desperation warring within her. "You've done your research." "I never enter agreements unprepared." Heath stood. "You have 24 hours to decide." As Sophia left the building, rain soaking through her thin jacket, she realized she didn't need 24 hours. The choice had already been made for her, by circumstance, by duty, by love for her family. She would enter Heath Blackwood's gilded cage, but she wouldn't surrender her soul along with her name. Silent melodies. The Blackwood estate sprawled across 5 acres of manicured gardens and old-growth trees. a Victorian mansion modernized with sleek glass additions. Sophia stood in what was now her bedroom, larger than her entire former apartment, and ran her fingers over the baby grand piano that had appeared there overnight. "Is this some kind of joke?" she asked when Heath appeared in the doorway. "Your brother mentioned you were a pianist." Heath's expression remained neutral. "I assumed you'd want to practice." "You've been talking to Devon?" "I had him and your mother move to the guest house this morning. Your mother's new specialist will visit tomorrow." Sophia's throat tightened. "You didn't have to do that. It was practical. The marriage needs to appear genuine." He checked his watch. "Dinner is at 7. My assistant has filled your closet with appropriate attire." After he left, Sophia sank onto the piano bench, torn between gratitude and resentment. She began to play, letting Debussy's Clair de Lune express what she couldn't, her confusion, her fear, her unexpected flicker of hope. The following weeks established a rhythm. Heath left before dawn and returned after dark. They barely spoke, beyond necessary courtesies. Sophia divided her time between visiting her mother, whose health was slowly improving under the new treatment protocol, and exploring the vast house. It was during one of these explorations that she discovered Heath's study, walls lined with architectural drawings, models of buildings occupying every surface. She was examining a particularly intricate design when his voice startled her. "That was my first major project. The Kimura Cultural Center in Tokyo." Sophia turned, expecting anger at her intrusion, but found only a guarded curiosity in his eyes. "It's beautiful," she said honestly. "The way the light seems to flow through the structure." Something shifted in Heath's expression. "You see that? I'm a musician, not an architect, but I understand how structure and emotion intersect." She gestured to the model. "This building wants people to feel welcome, but also awed, like a cathedral, but without the intimidation." For the first time, Heath's smile reached his eyes. Exactly. That night at dinner, instead of retreating to his study, Heath lingered. "Why the piano?" he asked abruptly. Sophia considered deflecting, but found herself answering truthfully. "My father played. After he died, it was how I felt connected to him. My mother says he used to say that music is mathematics made beautiful. Your father sounds like a wise man. He was an engineering professor." Sophia smiled at the memory. "He would have loved your buildings." Heath's face clouded. "My father hated them. He wanted skyscrapers, monuments to the Blackwood name. I wanted to create spaces that served people." "Is that why you don't speak to him?" Heath's expression closed. "We're done discussing my family." The wall between them returned, but something had changed. Sophia began finding architectural journals open to articles about incorporating musical elements into design. Heath started, arriving home earlier, working at the dining table while Sophia practiced piano. They orbited each other cautiously, neither willing to acknowledge the shifting gravity between them. At a charity gala, their first public appearance as a couple, Sophia wore a midnight blue gown that complemented Heath's tuxedo. As they entered, whispers followed them. "I heard he married her for her family connections. I heard it was an arranged marriage. She's clearly after his money." Heath's hand tightened on hers. "Ignore them," he murmured. "I'm fine," Sophia assured him, though her smile felt brittle. Later, as they danced, Heath surprised her by asking, "Would you consider performing tonight? There's a piano, and the organizer mentioned they lost their scheduled musician." "I haven't performed publicly in years. You play for hours every day." His eyes met hers. "I listen sometimes, from the hallway." The confession startled her. "Why?" "Because when you play, I can almost believe that beauty exists for its own sake, not just as something to be bought and sold." The vulnerability in his voice decided her. "I'll do it. When she took her place at the grand piano, Sophia felt a momentary panic. Then she saw Heath watching her, his usual mask replaced by something that looked almost like pride. She began to play Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, pouring her complex emotions into every note. The applause afterward was thunderous, but it was Heath's quiet "thank you" as they drove home that mattered most. That night, Sophia found a small box outside her door. Inside lay a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny piano. The note simply read, "You shouldn't have to put your dreams on hold for others. H." Standing alone in her room, Sophia realized with startling clarity that the gilded cage had begun to feel less like a prison and more like a home she wasn't ready to leave. Blueprint hearts. 3 months into their arrangement, Sophia noticed Heath spending more time on phone calls that left him agitated. One evening, she found him staring at architectural plans, a glass of scotch untouched beside him. "What's wrong?" she asked, setting a cup of tea near his hand. "The Westbrook Foundation project is falling apart." He rubbed his temples. "The board chair insists on using his son-in-law's firm for the acoustics in the concert hall, but their previous work is mediocre at best." Sophia hesitated. "I might know someone who could help." Heath looked up skeptically. "Professor Takahashi from Juilliard. He specializes in architectural acoustics and designed the renovation for Carnegie Hall's recital space." She pulled out her phone. "He was my father's friend." To her surprise, Heath didn't dismiss the suggestion. "Can you arrange a meeting?" 2 days later, Sophia watched as Heath and Professor Takahashi bent over blueprints, deep in technical discussion. The professor had flown in overnight at Heath's expense. "Your husband thinks like a musician," Takahashi told Sophia as he was leaving. "He understands that buildings must resonate with those who inhabit them." Heath overheard and seemed discomfited by the praise. After Takahashi left, he turned to Sophia. "Thank you. That may have saved the project." "You're welcome." She paused. "Though it's strange to hear someone call you my husband." "Does it bother you?" His question seemed carefully casual. "No. What bothers me is that I know so little about the man I'm supposedly married to." She met his gaze directly. "You know everything about my family, my struggles? I don't even know if you have siblings." Heath was silent so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "One sister, Olivia. We haven't spoken in 5 years. Why?" "She married someone I disapproved of." His jaw tightened. "She chose him over family loyalty. Or maybe she chose love and hoped you'd understand eventually. It's not that simple. It never is with family." Sophia hesitated before adding, "But sometimes the strongest foundations are built on forgiveness." Heath changed the subject, but the conversation lingered between them. A week later, Sophia was surprised to find Heath at home early, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, rather than his usual suit. "I have a proposal," he said. "A personal day. No work, no obligations." They spent the day at the Botanical Gardens, then a small gallery showing experimental architecture. Heath seemed lighter, almost playful as he critiqued designs and explained concepts to her. When they stopped for coffee afterward, he surprised her by asking about her music school. "What would you do differently if money weren't an issue?" Sophia found herself describing her vision. Scholarships for underprivileged students, master classes with visiting artists, a recording studio for students to produce their own work. Heath listened intently, asking questions that showed genuine interest. "You should do it," he said finally. "All of it." "That would take more than just the money from our arrangement. Then consider it an investment. Draw up a business plan." His eyes held a challenge. "Convince me." Over the next few weeks, Sophia worked on her proposal while continuing to help with the Westbrook project. She was deep in spreadsheets one evening, when Heath entered her room without knocking, his face taut with anger. "Did you contact my sister?" Sophia set down her pen. Yes, you had no right. I sent her an invitation to the Westbrook Foundation benefit. That's all. That was not your decision to make. His voice was dangerously quiet. You're right. Sophia stood. But you're miserable without her, and life is too short for pride. This isn't about pride. Then what is it about? She stepped closer. What are you so afraid of? I'm not afraid. I'm protecting what matters. Are you? Or are you just hiding from the possibility that you might be wrong? Heath turned to leave, but Sophia caught his arm. She's coming to the benefit. She wants to see you. The anger in his eyes gave way to something more vulnerable. What if it's too late? It's never too late to rebuild, Sophia said softly, unconsciously echoing his company's motto. Heath's hand covered hers, warm and steady. When did you become so essential to my life? He murmured almost to himself. Before she could respond, he leaned down and kissed her, gently at first, then with increasing urgency when she responded. It was their first kiss not performed for an audience, and it left them both breathless. This complicates things, Heath whispered against her hair. I know. Sophia's heart raced. But maybe complications aren't always bad. That night, Heath stayed in her room, not for passion, but for presence. They talked until dawn, about his estranged family, her abandoned career, the walls they'd both built and were now cautiously dismantling. As sunlight crept through the windows, Sophia realized that what had begun as a business arrangement had quietly, inexorably transformed into something neither of them had anticipated or known how to name. Foundations. Shaken. The Westbrook Foundation benefit was held at the site of the future concert hall, currently just a framework of steel and concrete. Heath had transformed the space with temporary flooring, dramatic lighting, and a string quartet, playing from a raised platform. Sophia stood beside him, greeting benefactors and architecture enthusiasts with the ease she'd developed over months of such events. You've become quite good at this, Heath murmured as they moved between groups. I've had an excellent teacher. She squeezed his hand. Are you ready to see Olivia? Before he could answer, a woman with Heath's same steel-gray eyes approached. A tall man beside her. Heath. Olivia's voice wavered slightly. Liv. Heath's grip on Sophia's hand tightened. You look well. Thanks to your wife's persistence. Olivia smiled at Sophia. She's not what I expected. She rarely is what anyone expects, Heath said, with unexpected warmth. The tension eased as Olivia introduced her husband, Daniel, an environmental scientist whose research was now being incorporated into Blackwood's sustainable building practices. A connection Sophia had quietly facilitated through Professor Takahashi. As Heath and Daniel discussed technical specifications, Olivia drew Sophia aside. 5 years of silence, and suddenly my brother is collaborating with my husband. How did you manage that? I just helped him see what he was missing. Sophia watched Heath, noting how animated he became when discussing his work. He's different from the man I married 6 months ago. You actually love him, don't you? Olivia looked surprised. When he announced this sudden marriage, we all assumed it was another of his strategic moves. Before Sophia could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. Victor Cavendish, Heath's main business rival, was arguing with security. This is a private event, Victor, Heath said coldly, approaching the disturbance. I just wanted to congratulate you on your marriage of convenience. Cavendish's smile was venomous. Though I wonder if your shareholders know the terms of your arrangement. The contract, the payment schedule? Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. Beside her, Olivia whispered, What is he talking about? Not here, Heath growled, steering Cavendish toward a private area. Sophia followed, heart pounding. How had Cavendish learned about their contract? Your uncle was quite forthcoming after a few drinks, Cavendish told Heath once they were alone. Apparently he felt shortchanged in your little deal. Whatever you think you know, Heath began. I know you married this woman to satisfy your grandfather's will and secure your position. I know she agreed in exchange for financial compensation. I know it's a fraud. Cavendish smirked. The board will be fascinated. What do you want? Heath's voice was ice. The Westbrook Project. Withdraw Blackwood's bid. That's extortion. That's business. Cavendish shrugged. Decide by morning. After he left, Heath turned to Sophia. His expression shuddered. We should go. The drive home was silent. In Heath's study, he poured himself a scotch with a hand that wasn't quite steady. I'll withdraw from Westbrook, he said finally. It's just one project. It's your dream project, Sophia protested. And Cavendish will ruin it. The alternative is worse. If the board learns about our arrangement, it could trigger a clause revoking my leadership. Heath drained his glass. My grandfather was very specific about the marriage being genuine. Our marriage is legally valid, but ethically questionable. He set down his glass. I've put you in an impossible position. For that, I apologize. Don't apologize to me, Sophia said fiercely. Fight back. How? Cavendish has the contract, probably your uncle's sworn statement. But he doesn't have the truth. Sophia stepped closer. Not the whole truth. Which is? That somewhere along the way this became real for me. She took a shaky breath. I'm not acting when I'm with you anymore, Heath. I haven't been for months. Hope and disbelief warred in his expression. Sophia, I know this complicates everything, she continued. But if there's even a chance you feel the same... Heath pulled her to him, his kiss desperate and consuming. I've been falling in love with you since you stood in my office and questioned my methods, he confessed against her lips. I just never believed you could feel the same for someone who essentially bought your presence. You never bought me, she corrected. You offered a solution to my problems, but staying was always my choice. She touched his face. And I choose. You, Heath? Contract or no contract? Even if choosing me means facing Cavendish and possibly losing everything, some things are worth the risk. The next morning, instead of withdrawing from the Westbrook Project, Heath called an emergency board meeting. With Sophia beside him, he explained their unconventional beginning and their very real present. Our marriage may have started as a business arrangement, he told the shocked board members, but it has become the most genuine relationship of my life. If that costs me this company, so be it. To their surprise, the board chairman, Heath's grandfather's oldest friend, began to laugh. Richard always said you needed someone who'd make you put your heart above your business sense. I think he'd approve of your choice, even if your methods were unorthodox. The board voted unanimously to support Heath against Cavendish's attempted blackmail. Afterward, as they left the boardroom, Heath turned to Sophia. I've spent my life building things to last, he said quietly, but I never understood what makes something truly endure until you showed me. That night, as a thunderstorm raged outside, Sophia played Chopin while Heath sketched beside her. Their contract lay forgotten in a drawer, rendered meaningless by the truth that had grown between them. Harmony, rebuilt. 1 year to the day after their wedding, Sophia woke to find Heath gone from their now shared bedroom. On his pillow lay a thick envelope with her name written in his precise handwriting. Inside, she found divorce papers already, signed by him, along with a separate document transferring ownership of her mother's music school building to her, free and clear. A note was paper-clipped to the front. As promised, your freedom. Thank you for this year. H. Sophia sat motionless, the papers heavy in her hands. Their contract was fulfilled. She had what she'd wanted: financial security for her family, her mother healthy, her brother in college, her music school saved. So why did it feel like loss? She found Heath in his study, standing before the scale model of the now completed Westbrook Concert Hall. "What is this?" She held up the divorce papers. "The terms of our agreement." He didn't turn. "1 year has passed. And you assumed I'd want to leave?" Now he faced her, his expression carefully neutral. "I assumed you'd want the choice. You're giving me a building but taking away my home." "That's not my intention." "Then what is your intention, Heath?" Sophia stepped closer. "Because it feels like you're pushing me away before I can choose to stay." Something vulnerable flickered in his eyes. "The last person I loved chose to leave. Your sister came back. After you intervened." His jaw tightened. "I don't want you to stay, out of obligation or gratitude. Is that what you think this is?" Sophia gestured between them. "Obligation?" "I don't know what this is," Heath admitted. "I only know that I've never felt entitled to it." Sophia set the divorce papers on his desk and picked up a lighter from his drawer. Before he could stop her, she touched the flame to the corner of the document. "What are you doing?" Heath reached for the papers, but she held them away. "Making a choice." She watched the flame consume their contract. "I'm choosing the man who sits outside my door to listen to me play piano, the man who reconnected with his sister because I asked him to, the man who looks at buildings and sees not monuments, but spaces where people can thrive." The papers burned down to ash in the metal wastebasket. Heath stared at her, hope warring with disbelief. "I love you," Sophia said simply. "Not your money, not your name, you." Heath crossed the room in 2 strides, gathering her into his arms. "I've been designing a house," he confessed against her hair. "Something that's neither yours nor mine, but ours, with a music room that opens to the garden and a studio where I can work while listening to you play." "You were planning this while preparing divorce papers?" "I've never been good at hoping for what I want most." His smile was rueful. It seemed safer to prepare for the worst. "And now? Now I'm terrified, but willing to build something without a safety net." He touched her face. "If you'll have me." 6 months later, they stood in the completed Westbrook Concert Hall for its inaugural performance. Sophia, in a gown the color of autumn leaves, took her place at the grand piano on stage. The piece she'd composed, Foundations, told their story in soaring melodies and complex harmonies. In the front row, Heath watched his wife with undisguised pride, Olivia and Daniel beside him. In the row behind sat Sophia's mother, now fully recovered, and Devon, home from college for the event. As the final notes faded, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Sophia bowed, her eyes finding Heath's in the crowd. No applause meant more than his silent approval, no success sweeter than the journey that had brought them here. Later that night in their new home, a perfect blend of his architectural vision and her musical sensibility, Sophia found Heath on the terrace, gazing at the stars. "Professor Takahashi offered me a teaching position at Juilliard," she told him, sliding her arms around his waist. "1 day a week, working with architects on acoustic design. You should take it. It would mean dividing my time between here and New York." Heath turned to face her. "Then we'll make it work. Your career matters as much as mine." "When did you become so reasonable?" she teased. "When I realized that loving someone means supporting their dreams, not just asking them to share yours." He kissed her softly. "Besides, I have projects in New York. We could have a small apartment there for when our schedules align." They stood together in comfortable silence, the night air cool around them. So much had changed in 18 months, not just circumstances, but themselves. Heath had learned to trust, to forgive, to open himself to possibilities beyond control. Sophia had found her voice, not just in music, but in standing firm for what she believed. "Do you ever regret it?" Heath asked suddenly. That day in my office when you agreed to my proposal? Sophia considered the question seriously. I regret that we began with a contract instead of a choice. But I don't regret where it led us. She smiled up at him. Some people spend their whole lives looking for what we found by accident. Not accident, Heath corrected. Design. Every strong structure needs both a solid foundation and room to grow. He traced the line of her cheek. You gave me both. In the distance, the lights of the city twinkled like earthbound stars. Inside, their home, the spaces they'd created together, her music room, his studio, their shared bedroom, waited in comfortable silence. They had built something neither had imagined possible, a partnership based not on obligation or necessity, but on choice renewed each day. Not a gilded cage, but an open door. Not a business arrangement, but a love story, written in their own unique language of music and architecture, courage and trust. And in the quiet of their shared life, they had discovered the most profound truth of all, that sometimes the most beautiful designs emerge not from careful planning, but from the willingness to let the heart lead the way.